The brand new Nissan Armada was at the press launch for this vehicle, and now I have it in person. So I'm gonna learn a little bit more about it. We're gonna talk about interior, exterior, engineering, and of course, what it's like to drive on the street. Let's start with pricing. I'm gonna put this slide up. It's expensive. Starts at 56 grand base, and that's rear wheel drive. You can go all the way up to the Platinum Reserve, which sounds like a whiskey. It is almost $80,000, and obviously once this gets some years on it, you're probably better off buying it used, where you're gonna get a much better price. So we're gonna talk about the pros and cons of this as we go. So the exterior is kind of like that Bulldog. It is a truck SUV because it's body on frame. So it has this stance to it, this proportion. I parked it next to the GX, which we're gonna make a lot of comparisons to, and when you park it next to something like that, well, I'll leave it to you if you appreciate the styling. But overall, it's conservative enough, but it definitely looks like a truck all the way around. And I think that's desperately needed in this market of like just cookie cutter SUVs. So we're gonna talk about interior next. This is of course the higher trim, so you got this two-tone leather. I think they do a good job mixing up the silver, the bright works, kind of this, the wood veneers and the piano black, although it's a little bit too excessive here, but I think overall it's an attractive looking space. Seats are tremendous. Nissan does a great job with their foams, their seats. They don't have a lot of fatigue, and they have this kind of half-ass massage function here, which is just basically like a lumbar bladder. It's not great, but I found in a longer trip, it definitely works. So, you know, if they called it something else, let's just call it an anti-fatigue setting better. The back seats are very comfortable. They recline, they adjust well. You can get car seats in here really well without having to move the front seats forward. There's a good use of space. With the exception of having that third row up, that's when you lose like everything. It's like a lot of three-row SUVs. If you're using that third row, there's not a lot of cargo capacity in the back. But you know, with those seats down, it's huge. The other thing I really love about this is the usability. Door storage, handle storage. You can fit bottles in there. You can fit bottles in the like where the door handle is, to hold the door. The center cargo area is great for bottles. There's a wireless phone charger here, and the center armrest is enormous underneath. So you're not gonna fight with this. Compared to like the GX, where you can't even fit a huge bottle in the door, like this is a really usable family vehicle. They thought about the ergonomics of where to put things quite well. So the center console area has all these buttons, knobs, and switches. There's a lot of physical controls in here, but the HVAC is like hybrid, so some of this you have to look at the screen for, like when I adjust the temperature. Just fine, it's a little bit hard to see, but when you have the camera system up, then you can't see the temperature. It like totally blocks that out, so that's something in software they're gonna have to fix. There's physical buttons on the left side for accent lighting. I feel like they blended the usability of physical versus digital very well. Infotainment's Android Automotive, and while it is fairly easy to use once you get the hang of it, it's not the fastest system on the planet. Android Auto, when I connect my Android phone to it, constantly drops. The wireless connection is weak, and it has a lot to do with phone placement or just maybe antenna gain for the infotainment. I put my phone in the wireless charger, and it constantly loses connection with the infotainment. Getting around the menus, once you have it set, you're not gonna really fight with it. So that's good. And again, like usability, you get used to very quick. And there's things like, you know, driver monitoring systems in here for safety, which we'll talk about during the drive. The audio system is Klipsch. Now, I don't know who does it on the back end, but they market this as, you know, it's a great audiophile or audio system experience. And it's just all bass. There's no way around it. I can't dial it out. Even in surround mode, it just overwhelms every single song. The tweeters, despite them having waveguides on the driver's side, is directed at the lower part of the dash and the steering wheel, so there's a lot of reflectivity off that. It's a very average subpar system, to be honest. It could be recalibrated to reduce the bass output quite a bit, but I'm going to leave that to you to decide if it's a big deal. Let's head into the shop, and we're going to talk about some of the engineering that went into this before we take it for a drive.
In the shop with the 2025 Nissan Armada. You try to keep this bad boy all to yourself. You know how I feel about body on frame, sir?
I know, especially if I would have just stamped a GM badge in here.
You GM?
Yeah, you would have known everything about it. But what do you know about it? Let's start with the updates.
I know that this does not have an LT 6.2 liter V8. What you have instead is a VR35. It's a twin turbo V6. Compared to their other applications, it gets a new crank and the turbos are placed higher, so this thing can ford some water. Compared to the old outgoing V8, which was legendarily reliable, this now makes more torque, 100 foot-pounds extra, and it makes some extra horsepower as well. I think total system output, it's over 500 foot-pounds of torque and like 400-ish horsepower.
What about my jet skis?
You can tow your jet skis. It has 8,500 pounds of towing capacity across the trim levels. Gets a 9-speed automatic. The big story, more so than the drivetrain, is the way this thing actually rides and handles. This is on a brand new frame, which is 25% more torsionally rigid, which means from a ride and handling perspective, less of the world makes its way into the cabin. Yes, it's better in accidents, but it's more refined. It's a double wishbone front, multi-link rear. It has optional 4-wheel drive. The base model of this has a rear drive. You walked me through some of your conversation with the Nissan engineers as well, right?
Yeah, I talked to the Murano guys, and I didn't talk to the Armada guys, but it's really the same.
Because you're a
story.
Murano man.
Yeah, I'm a Murano man at heart. The goal is at least in the United States, they're working back and forth with Japan, and body structure improvements and all of that's through CAE. That's nothing really different than other brands are doing, but Nissan is leaning more heavily into engineering tools on the software end to do simulation to improve body structure so they can essentially improve the frame, the body structure to make it more rigid. Global and local stiffnesses help to improve what you talked about, refinement. It feels less truckish, less road vibration, noise vibration gets into the cabin. They can stiffen everything up without making it feel like a jittery experience. So it improves ride and handling, it improves NVH, that noise and vibration. So there's just so much they've been able to do here to improve it. And that really goes back to their adoption of more tools like that. And it speeds up development time. So these can be better, faster, and they can get more product out.
So an example of that is on the V-Dyne side, this moved away from hydraulic steering. It now uses an E-Pass rack. And they have adaptive dampers with air ride. And they're working with Bridgestone, who's their tire supplier. In the case of this, it's running an Alenza AS Sport, obviously in massive sizes being an SUV. But they use the tire models from Bridgestone to help calibrate all the various systems to get this thing to drive as naturally as possible. And as you're going to see, as more and more OEMs partner more closely with their tire manufacturers and more OEMs use computer-aided simulation or engineering, the tire models that are being provided by the tire suppliers are far more important to the overall equation.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, right, the tire is the only thing that makes contact with the ground, but everything that goes through that tire and wheel up through that suspension, the more you're adept at doing the simulation and those cycles of learning through that, you can improve the vehicle overall. Like, you would think this does nothing, but everything you're feeling behind the wheel is just a counter effect of that. And how well they do it or how bad they do it, it just definitely transmits into that driving experience, which we're going to take this out on the road right now, Jack.
Mark, I can't wait to experience some more Alenza AS Sports, sir, just like you have on your BMW iX.
I have put them on everything. My bed is made out of like ground up Bridgestone Potenza ASs. I guess I get the damping effect when I'm...
Armada, Mark.
I'm late to pick up my dad's kids. Hurry up.
We're in sport mode. Oh, yeah.
Oh, shit!
So it's real Nissan driving for you, Mark.
Yeah,
some air
you're
on
not
your
going
way to pick
fast
up your
enough.
Kids.
Hey, we got people to run off the road, so... No, this is not the vehicle for that.
No, I mean, most people who are running people off the road don't have $90,000 SUVs or whatever this costs.
Yeah, well, in maybe 3 years, you'll be able to get one for $30,000.
Did you tell me the Armada depreciates for like 50%?
The Armada depreciation's pretty steep, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about and celebrate the fact that they made a really good car.
Yes, they did. This thing is shockingly good. When you told me at the launch program, oh, Jack, I'm miserable, but this Armada's pretty good.
Yeah. I hate the launch program so much because, like, oftentimes you don't really learn about how much work on the back end goes into them. It's just a lot of marketing, how people want the lifestyle of thinking they can go off-road and look at all the trail cameras and you can see your wheels when you're going up a mountain. Nobody at the end of the day that's buying this
is really doing it. At least as a first owner.
Yeah. So, okay, on the road where you're going to live with this, the reason why I was so impressed was, yes, it can go off-road and it can do off-road things. And you feel very, very isolated from the external environment. It's like no stress on your body, the cameras work, all those things work off-road, but the main thing is usually when you sacrifice all that to be good off-road and you get it on the pavement,
it's horrible.
Yes, and this
is not. It's great. I think drivetrain-wise, their V6, their twin-turbo V6 is great. Makes good power, it's smooth, it returns some fuel economy. The gearbox calibration, this is obviously the Mercedes sourced or used to be Mercedes gearbox. While it's not fast, it doesn't jerk or have weird shifts, at least during my limited time in both the Armadas we've driven. It's really not that bad, and from a ride quality perspective, this is the top trim variant. It has air ride and adaptive dampers and everything.
Yes, and when we go back into comfort mode,
it's really compliant. And it doesn't feel like, I mean, yes, it feels like you're in an enormous SUV, but I'm comparing this to not a direct competitor, but the GX that we have as a long-termer, or something more similar like a Toyota Sequoia. This handles better than that vehicle does. It rides better than those vehicles, which is shocking because this is a Nissan product and not a Lexus or a really high-end Toyota.
Well, I think I told you that right off the bat. This is better than the GX and the LX in terms of ride refinement. Yes. You know, like, and we just got out of back-to-back with the GX on a long trip and into this, and I think on the highway and all the things that it does.
Oh my God, that person in front of me.
Yeah, well, what do you, TNC, baby. Don't push them too hard. You don't want them to come out with an Uzi.
Yeah.
So, you know, back-to-back, you really appreciate it. Is this, are you going to buy this over a GX long-term?
No.
No, right? Like, at least not at this point where this brand is. But I certainly would rather be in this, given its usability, its functionality. The safety suite, as we found out in traffic, works fairly well for it.
Yeah.
And its traffic jam assist, like, the safety suite is pretty reliable. Like, you can take your hands off the wheel most of the time and it will drive itself, you know, to a certain extent in traffic. Maybe not as perfect as
I would
the
take this probably over a Sequoia.
Well, 100% over the Sequoia. You know, again, like, in the relative terms of
would you take this over a GM Suburban or an Escalade?
Yeah, oh, well, but an Escalade's another price point.
Sure.
Like, personally, yeah, I take an Escalade over that, but then you're getting
Would you take this over a Suburban?
Yes.
Really?
I would. I don't know why. There's something about it. It doesn't have, like, I think because the drivetrain is so sorted on this, you know, like, look at what GM's going through with their V8s right now.
Specifically, yeah.
You know, so, like, you know, the V6, that twin turbo V6 in here is stout. The transmission's been sorted out, you know, like, I like that, and I think the ride refinement is really good. And
all the inputs are surprisingly linear. Like the steering, I mean, there's no feel in anything, but that's not why you buy this thing. It's just an easy, big vehicle that feels smaller than it really is, and it rides well, and it's shockingly well put together.
The only thing negative that I can think from driving it, you know, and we talked about this on the interior, the technology part, some of the center stack of, like, how you use HVAC and all that, but there is, above here, there's a lot of airborne noise. And you hear it more from the top of the car versus the bottom part, and I feel like they did a good job on isolation from the lower body structure.
From the structure itself.
Yeah, but there's still this upper wind noise, this upper air noise that is, you know, there's no leaks in the seals or anything like that, but you do get a bit more road noise. But to be fair, it's quieter than your GX.
Yes. Our GX that we have is an Overtrail Plus, which makes it, it's unfair, all-terrain tires.
True.
And it has a roof rack, which is more like a roof kite.
Yeah.
But even a regular GX, one we had for our comparison with the Defender, this is immediately quieter. I'm actually curious. We never get Infinities on this channel, but I'd love to drive the Infinity version of this to see how quiet it is.
I would like to drive the Infinity version purely from the perspective of a used car proposition, because when you look at the price tag on the Infinity compared to this, it's like $20,000 more. And I know it's going to be better, but, like, if you could get something like that for the $60,000, $70,000 on the used market with low miles, and you look at what this is for a body-on-frame SUV.
So we can put your kids in tow boat with.
Yeah, I mean, it does a lot. But anyway, Jack, let's get into the final thoughts.
All right, let's do it.
So final thoughts. The Nissan Armada is a good truck, and it goes to show you what their engineers can do when given the right amount of resources and they put that technology and resources in the right area. When you compare this back to back with something like a Toyota Sequoia, which is its direct competitor, Jack and I both agreed we'd rather spend our time in the Armada, and a lot of that has to do with the vehicle dynamics team did a great job. The ride isolation, the ride refinement, the ride calibration over bumpy surfaces. It no longer feels like a 50-year-old truck. You can spend all day in it, and the usability is really good, even compared to the Toyota and Lexus products. So that leaves you with like, why would you buy something else? Well, it's still expensive. When you spec this up, it's like 75 G's, and that's just crazy. The technology feels kind of like a hodgepodge in terms of infotainment. It's definitely not the best to get around. The audio system is obnoxiously bass heavy, and I think, you know, overall, most of the things that they set out to do with this really work, but honestly, the thing that kills it for me is the depreciation. If you're buying this new, you really got to think about that before you commit. Otherwise, you know, if you buy this on the used market for a steal, you're really going to enjoy driving it. But anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next video.